Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Monday View, and so this is a view of the collection pencils that were selected for the week. We're not going to be coloring with these all week, but we are going to color the one picture that we are working on with them that we started on Saturday. Um, I want to do a couple of the collections this week, so I really wanted to play with my Derwents. So we will be playing with the Derwents after we are finished our picture that we're working on right now. But I want to tell you about these pencils. The 120 set is currently on sale through Amazon, and it does come in a case. This is the 280 set, and we'll go over price and that sort of thing later on. But I want to show you the pencils. So there's a really wide selection of pencils from yellows and reds and pinks and oranges. As you can see with the swatch chart here, there is a huge selection of each color. So you're not really wanting for too much more, really. Um, Great set of pencils. We're going to move the pencils themselves out of the way here. We will also be coloring with these pencils in our Art Matters for today as well. So I'm just going to go through the pencils themselves with you. Oh, my desk is a mess. Trying to find somewhere to put everything. I've got so many things going on, and so little space to do it in lately because my desk is a mess. All right, so we have our white into our cream tones, into our yellows and our dark yellows, into our light orange tones, so those are our peach tones, into our orange and orange red tones, then into our reds. We have a huge selection of red. We do have a couple of true reds as well, which is great, into our pinks, and then into our deep purple pinks, our red violets, into our blue violets, and down here's a mixture of the lighter colors as well. So, and then our dark blue violets here. So these ones here are the really dark blue violets that are borderline blue. So I've put them down here at the start of the blues. Then we have our light blues into our dark blues, and then into our green blues here, and then our greens. We have a really good selection of really great, really nice gradient greens here. So it goes all the way up into our dark greens. And then in this area here, we have a few of the dark green blues. And then our olive colors here, and then our browns. And I've separated them a little bit into red brown and orange brown and black browns down here. And then we have our blacks and our grays. And then we have these odd colors down here. And the reason why they're down here is because it's a purple gray, a blue gray, and a pink gray. Then there is a bit of a yellow gray here and a green gray. Excuse me. And then we go into our, I'm not quite sure, I think that's a brown gray, but I think it should be up here. Excuse me. And then our silver gray here. And then we have our metallics. So we have our silver, gold, orange, red, pinks, purples, blues, and our aquatic greens, our turquoise colors, as well as a dark silver, and I can't remember what this one was. But the metallics and the neons don't have any color names on them. So then we also have our neon colors here. So there's no names or numbers on the metallics, but there is numbers on all of the other pencils. So that's how you can definitely tell them apart. Another way that you can tell them apart is the pencil itself has the number, and it has a cap on the end. Now, if you're grabbing a neon or a metallic, let's grab a neon and a metallic because they're the same. So as you can see, it still has the color, the company name on it, but it doesn't have any other markings on it. And also it doesn't have a cap on the end. So that is how you can definitely tell the difference between your neons and your colors. And, you know, the neons and the metallics are at the end of the box. So that's another way as well. All right, so I'm going to put that aside. Now we do have some testing that we can do because I haven't done the testing on this sheet. So I'm going to switch you over to the close-up camera here. We've got our water testing and as well as our smudge testing. So I'm just going to grab a yellow, a red, and a blue. I think I want, what blue do I want? Let's see, there's 209, 27 would be good. This one here. All right, now I'm going to sharpen that one. All right, so we've got our basic colors here. We've got yellow, red, and blue. So this is number 4, 124, and number 27. So let's start with our yellow. And as you can see, it doesn't take a whole lot to fully cover with these pencils. They are an oil-based pencil from what I understand of the description, and they feel like an oil-based pencil. They don't smush. They definitely do require some layering. All right, so there's our yellow, and then our red. And you'll see the requirement for the layering, of course, in the darker colors, because you'll be able to see the white spot coming through underneath the color better with a darker color. The yellows and the light colors, you don't see that white spot coming through as much. So I'm coloring this the same way I would if I was finishing the color on the page, because the reason why I do a water test is because I like to put water-based things on top of my coloring work. So for example, Stickles, the Spectrum Noir glitter pens, Wink of Stella, anything like that has a water base to it. So it will lift up your pencils if they're not water resistant. Now I have yet to find a pencil that is completely waterproof to a point where you can put water on it and scrub it and not have it move. I have found several that are water resistant, but if you put enough agitation on any pencil, it's going to move a little bit. So even if it's water resistant and you like scrub it with your paintbrush, you're going to move that pigment. All right, so I'm just finishing this off, getting it fully coated in a good heavy coating. Now I'm going to brush it off, and I haven't sealed it, I haven't burnished it, I just colored it. Now we're going to take our water brush and show you that there's water in it. And we're going to brush it on the yellow. And as you can see, there is definitely water movement there. So I'm going to clear that up because I'm going to go a little closer for you. Just a little closer so that you can actually see what I'm doing. I will have to remember to move that later on as well. Just gonna, there we go. So I will move that after when we move on to the coloring part. So as you can see, they definitely move. The red is moving, the yellow moved, and the blue moves. So definitely not water resistant. So with things that aren't water resistant, I always suggest that you use a Caran d'Ache blender for your blending. The reason for this is because the Caran d'Ache blender does add a layer of water resistant wax on top of your color. So you can end up making that more water resistant just by going over it with your blender. And plus that it blends really well as well. I like the bright stick. It does blend very, very nicely. Most pencils. I have had a few that it doesn't blend as well with, but with most pencils it does blend quite nicely. Alright, so we're going to do the smudge test. Again, I'm just going over it, coloring the same way that I would on a picture, making sure that it's completely covered the same way that I would when I was done with a picture. Now we're going to do our red. Build that color up. Now the reason why I do a smudge test is because, like many of you, I tend to rub my hand across pages like this when I'm coloring and moving around the page. Now with some pencils, if they're not smudge resistant, you will find that you end up picking up that pigment with your hand and putting it in other places, especially if you are overheated, if it's really warm in the house and you're overheated. It happens to me all the time in the summer. Or if you have a lot of oil in your skin. I some days have very oily skin, some days I don't. It all depends upon the weather, my mood. It pretty much depends upon everything. Whether or not my disorders are in full flare-up, things like that. So of course all of these factors change in our bodies that create more excretions out of our skin. And those excretions can move your pencils. Ask me, I know. Alright, so I'm just going to dust that off, make sure that there's no remnants of loose pigment. And I'm just going to take my finger and push that pigment and see if it moves. And the yellow definitely moves. If the yellow moves, I can pretty much guarantee that everything else is going to move, because the yellow is the lightest color, and if I can see it move, then you're definitely going to have movement in your red and your blue, and I definitely do. You can't see it there very well. There, that's better. But when you're coloring a page, you're going to see that pigment on your page if you aren't careful while you're moving around your page. Now, I do press fairly hard. Like if I just go like this, it's not going to move. But because I move my hand back and forth, after a while that friction will move that color. See, it's moved it over there. And it's on my finger. So you definitely have to be careful when you're coloring with these, that you're not rubbing your hand back and forth on your picture without first blending it or putting something under your hand or wearing a glove. When I know that my body is acting a certain way and excreting a lot of moisture from my hands, I do tend to wear my coloring glove. All right, so we're going to do a 3-color blend here. So I'm going to grab, let's do purple this time. Let's do these 3. Let's see how these 3 look together. All right, so we're going to start off with this one here, which is number 66. I'm going to turn you a little sideways so that I can get a good grip on the color and the page. Again, with this, we're going to build that color up, leaving a tail to blend into. So this is the tail here that is going to be blended into with the next color. All right, so this is the next color, which is 184. Again, leaving a tail to blend into. And building that color up. I think I want a little bit longer tail there so that I can build a little bit more color there. Like so. Add a little bit more color on this side because I didn't really get enough color there. I can see the white spot through it. And then finally we're going to use 128. So that was 66, 184, and the next color is going to be number 128. Again, going into that edge there and blending it into that other color. And that gives us quite a nice gradient from a light red violet into a brighter red violet. So we have a light red violet here, almost a purple violet, into our medium red violet, and then into our darker red violet. And we can keep going in this set and go into a darker even still. But the 3 colors there blend quite nicely together. Now we're going to do a rainbow blend. And the rainbow blend is basically showing me that you can take your basic colors and blend them together to create the colors that you need for the rainbow. So the first color we're going to start with is red. And this tells me that you can definitely blend these pencils together and create other colors if they blend well. So I'm just putting down a good block of the red, leaving a tail to create that orange. Now, because we know that these move, we also must assume that the lighter colors are going to pick up the darker colors. So if we're coloring over top of the red with the yellow, we're going to have to assume that the yellow is going to pick up some of that red onto the pencil. So start with your yellow far enough away from your red. Okay, so I want to start the yellow back here. We're going to put a tail here for the blue to blend into. And then we're going to bring our yellow. So as you can see, it's moving it into the yellow. So if it does that, just wipe your pencil. And there's our yellow color. Now we're going to do our orange. And it's going to pick up some of that red and move it into the yellow. like so. Now we're going to take our red again. And we're going to build that color up. Fill in all the white spot. And then we're going to take our yellow. And we're going to create that orange. And it did create the orange color, both with the light orange and the darker orange there. Now we're going to wipe our pencil, make sure there's no red on it, because we don't want to create a purple green. But we need some color there for the green. And I'm going over the tail of the yellow. Creating that green. Now if I want that lighter, I just add more yellow. Like so. Okay, so it definitely does do the rainbow, which is great. So we have our red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. So it does do the rainbow. It does blend the colors together quite nicely, creating that gradient blend. Now we're going to test a couple of different things. First of all, we're going to test whether or not you can blend the pencils using your white pencil. And there it is. The white pencil can either be very useful in blending and unuseful with coloring over like a black or something to put accents and that sort of thing. Depends upon how translucent the white is. If it's opaque, you're going to be able to use that the same way you do, say, a Prismacolor white, where you can use it to add accents and that sort of thing. However, if it's not opaque and it's very translucent, you can utilize it for blending. So don't disregard your white pencil, because it can be very useful for several things. Now we're going to do this with some pinks, I think. Yes, I want to do some pinks. So we're going to grab a few bright pinks. The reason why I'm going to use bright pinks for this is because I want to show you that sometimes when you blend with a white, you can take something really, really bright and dull it down and make it a little bit lighter. So we're going to put the bright pinks down here. Make them really bright and really, 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 really covering up all that white spot. And then we're going to take our medium tone, go right into the edge. And then we're going to take our light tone. You don't need to worry too much about having a lot of, oh, that one wasn't as light as I wanted it to be. Okay. A lot of, you don't have to worry about having whether or not you have white spot. The only thing that you have to worry about is whether or not you have enough color to move with your white pencil. So we're going to start down here, going from light to dark. So these, the white here is quite translucent. You're not getting a lot of that dulling down that you would get, say, if you were to use a Prismacolor to blend this. You're getting some, because that's what the white does. There is still some pigment in there, but you're not getting a complete dull down as if, like for example, if I was to use the white Prisma on this. This is the white Prisma. As you can see, the difference between using the white Prisma and the regular. So the white Prisma has taken that color down almost to this color, where the white pencil only blended it in and just dulled it down a little bit. All right, so there's our white. So it definitely blends very nicely. It is a translucent white, so you're not going to get that same what's the word I'm looking for? Same amount of change in the pencil's color. So now we're going to grab something else here. Let's grab, we've done purple and we've done, so let's do some green. So let's grab a light green, a medium green, and a dark green. I think this one here, this one. All right, so we're going to start with our dark green, and this is going to be using the Caran d'Ache blender to blend these together. And this is called a tritone blend, where we're taking 3 different colors of the same base color and blending them together from dark to light or light to dark, whichever way you want to do it. Now the one thing with the Caran d'Ache blender stick that you have to remember is that you need lots of pigment on the page for it to move. Otherwise it's just going to pick it up and you're going to end up with a lot more white spot than you started with. All right, so there's our 3 colors. Now we're going to move that, starting in our light. And as you can see, it's a colorless blender, so it's keeping all of those colors nice and bright. Like so. So it definitely blends with the Caran d'Ache as well. So as you can see, it has eliminated the white spot and blended those colors together in a gradient blend. Now the price for the full set of 280 is $49.99. And that works out to be approximately 18 cents a pencil, which is a fantastic price for such a large set of pencils. You know, other than the fact that they are not water resistant, you do have to make sure that they are blended. Like for example, this I blended with the Caran d'Ache, and I can take my water brush. I'm going to show you that it's got water in it. And I can move that across here. And as you can see, I'm not picking up any color. None of that color is moving. And that's because I've put that layer of wax on it from the Caran d'Ache blender. and it has created that seal that you would need to keep the color on the page. Like I'm drying it off with a paper towel and it's not picking up any color. All right, so that is the DBDSZYH colored pencils. I have, well, our community in the coloring corner has redubbed these the Scooby-Doo pencils because, yeah, that's just a mouthful to say. Um, and, you know, because, yeah, they're Scooby-Dooby-Doo. And they're a great set of pencils. They do color very nicely. I don't like them, and that's why I didn't want to color with them this week. I just finished coloring with them a couple of weeks ago. I think last week. Week before last. Um, last month, something like that. I just finished coloring with them recently, and I haven't used my Derwents in quite some time. So I was hoping to use my Derwents. And we will be on the next picture because I really, really want to. All right, guys, so that is the breakdown of the testing is they are not water resistant. Make sure that you blend before you use your water product. So if you're going to add some sparkle to it, by all means add some sparkle to it. However, you are going to want to do your blending first. They are smudge. They do smudge, so make sure that if you have any sort of oil problems with your skin or anything like that, that you either wear a glove or blend before you start moving your hand. So what I typically do if I know that the pencil smudges and I know that I'm going to be rubbing my hand across that area, I will quickly go over it with the blender before I move on to the next area so that my hand isn't scrubbing across it. It does do a tricolor blend. There's more than enough colors in the set to complete a gradient blend of every color. It does do a wonderful rainbow blend as well, so you can definitely blend those colors together and create new colors. All right, guys, so that is the DBDSZYH pencils. I will place my color chart in the description below the video, so if you do purchase these and you want my color chart, I will place that down there. It's not as fancy as my other ones because it is a very large amount of colors. All right, so we're going to color in Art Matters with the the Scooby-Doo pencils. So we're going to be coloring in Art Matters. Last week we colored this one here, which says, I escaped from school as soon as I could, when the prospect of 4 more years of enforced learning before I'd become the writer I wanted to be was stifling. The next page is this one here. It says, I got out into the world. I wrote, and I became a better writer the more I wrote. And I wrote some more, and nobody ever seemed to mind that I was making it up as I went along. They just read what I wrote, and they paid for it. Or they didn't. And often they commissioned me to write something else for them. So that is what we're going to be coloring, is him writing and writing and writing. So we're going to take our big clamp and we're going to clamp the book because I want it flat so I can color. And flop that down, flop that down. And we're going to color this page here. I have placed my, let's make sure that that's actually placed back behind the area we're coloring. Let's see. I have placed my paper behind it so that we don't move the color from the previous page. So I'm just going to place this right behind where we're coloring, and hopefully we can cram it in there like so. All right, then we're going to clamp it with our big clamp, and we're going to color with the Scooby-Doo pencils. I'm going to zoom you out a little bit so you can see a little bit better now that we're not trying to do some testing. All right. So the first color that we're going to use is we're going to grab some of our peach tones as well as our gray tones. So we've got some gray pinks here, some gray peaches, and that's what we're going to use for the shadow areas of his face here. And I know it's not very visible to you guys, but it's there, I promise. And then we're going to use a bit of a brighter color for the rest of his face. Now, one thing that you do have to remember is this book is not a coloring book. This is a reading book. So with a reading book, if you color in it, sometimes your pencils will pick up that ink and move it around, and it will add a little bit of black to your ink or to your pencil from the ink. So be careful of that. Don't color too hard, otherwise you're going to color right through the page. And we don't want that. Put in a bit of a shadow here. This book is written by Neil Gaiman, and it is illustrated by Chris Riddell. Chris Riddell is also the person that illustrated 100 Hugs, which I did color the year before last. And I colored the whole book on stream. And I wasn't, I jumped the gun. I was doing a buddy color with a bunch of other YouTube artists, and I jumped the gun and started coloring before knowing all the parameters, and decided, okay, well, I might as well just color the whole book. And that's what ended up, creating this coloring prompt as well. Is Ashley Colors sent me this book, and I decided, well, we did one of his already, might as well do another one. Now this one has taken me a little bit longer because the pictures are a little bit more, some of them are a little bit larger, and doing one a day was a little bit too much for me, starting working and stuff like that. So one a day was an unachievable expectation. So I decided that I would only do it on Mondays. So it's taking a little bit longer than the 100 Days of Hugs. So I used a light gray, which is number 239. For his shirt, because we're going to color that white. And now we are going to actually use the white, because I don't need it to be stark white, and I don't want it to overtake that gray. I just want the white on there because the page itself is a little bit yellow, so the white is going to show up. If your page is a different color, more than likely your white will still show up a little bit. And I always color the whites even if the page is white. It just gives that bit of pencil there to work with. All right, so there we have his shirt. Now we're going to color his sweater. And he's got a sweater vest on, so I'm trying to decide if I want to do that. Let's do that in greens. So I'm going to take the 3 greens that we used earlier, and I'm going to start with the shadow areas up here. And down here. So basically I'm just going through and covering those shadowy areas. I'm not going over top of the pattern on the sweater. Sorry, I'm off screen. I'm just going through all of the areas that they've got a bit of a movement and a bit of a shadow. So because this is not a coloring book, the artist has put in the movement and the shadowing of the sweater. This part here I'm going to color in green anyway, so I'm just going to fill that in at the bottom above his pants. All right, now we're going to take our medium tone, and we've got a little bit of movement through here as well. And then we're going to take our medium tone and we're just going to come off of that dark tone. Like so. Filling in as much of the paper as I can. Now, again, it's not a coloring book, so you're not going to get as many layers on it as you'd want to. So make sure that you choose the colors that are going to give you the deepest color with the least amount of layers. And that way, you're not fighting the paper to get the color on it. All right, now we're going to take the lightest green. And we're going to put it on the rest of the green areas here. All right. Then we're going to take some red. And we're going to fill in our lines here, our pattern. All right. I'm going to sneeze. Hopefully I don't. Hopefully I can, keep it from gumming. I don't like sneezing. All right. And then for his pants, we're going to use the blue that we got out. And what I'm doing is I'm just pressing a little bit harder and building that color up a little bit more in the shadowy areas than I am in the areas where I want that color to be lighter. Giving it that kind of a denim look, like so. So that is another way. Oh, it seems Shiloh's got the sneezes too. That is another way to change the color of a color that you're using, is the different pressures or the different amount of layers that you put on it will give you a different level of color. Like so. Alright, now for our chair, I want to use number 120 and the gray that we already have. Alright, so I'm going to put in the back of the chair here and the bottom of the chair. And again, this is the same concept of coloring heavier where you want your shadows and lighter where you don't, because I don't want to change the color a whole bunch. So this area here is going to be darker, where this area here is going to be lighter. Like so. Then we're going to take that gray and we're going to do this part here. Like so. Alright, now we're going to do this person's hands here. And our paper is not in there all the way. Sorry about that. Charlie's got the sneezes now instead of me. Alright. Now we're going to do his tabletop there. And we're going to do that in some browns. So I need this one and this one. I'm going to do it only a two-tone because of the fact that there's so much on the desk. We're not going to get a whole bunch of area to do this in. So I'm using number 84, which is a darker brown. It's not a really heavy dark brown, but it's a darker brown. I'm just going into those shadow areas a little bit deeper. And putting a little bit more color down. Pressing a little bit harder. And then we're going to use number 82. And we're just going to come off of that. Like so. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, putting a little bit more pressure in those shadow areas. Up there, and then we're going to come in with the lighter color. And fill it in. Like so. Now for his pen, I'm going to try to make sure that I have the darkest of the blacks here. And we're going to do this part of his pen. And this part down here. And then we're going to grab a metallic. So I'm going to grab metallic silver. Like that. And then we're going to scratch because I had an itch. Then we're going to grab our, this one I think, yeah. Our light brown yellow, and we're just going to put in a little bit of color on the stack of paper here. As well as the papers here. And these ones here. I know that not all paper is yellow. It's just a little bit of a parchment color. Like that. And then we're going to take this one here. So that was number 81. And now we're going to start on his hair. So this is number 5, which is an orangey yellow. And if you remember, all through the book, I have colored him as a redhead. So that's what we're still going to continue to do. And then we're going to go with our orange, which is number 6. And this is where we're going to flick a little bit. Putting that color into his curls. And then we're going to use number 199. And this will be the last color for his hair. Sorry. That's why I have to remember to zoom it out a little more, because I keep on forgetting to that as it zoomed in, my points on the desk to show me where I'm supposed to be are off a little. All right, so there we have him. I'm going to switch you over to the main screen so you can see him a little bit better. And there we have it. And again, it says, I got out into the world. I wrote, and I became a better writer the more I wrote. And I wrote some more, and nobody ever seemed to mind that I was making it up as I went along. They just read what I wrote, and they paid for it. Or they didn't. And often they commissioned me to write something else for them. So that is where we are going to leave off for today. Again, the DBDSZYH colored pencils are our pencil of the week. I have had assistance with the community that comes to the Coloring Corner for our live streams. Basically all of you. And renamed them the Scooby-Doo pencils. So if you're looking for the Scooby-Doo pencils, you're going to have to type in this. I will, of course, leave a link below the video for the pencils. I will also leave a link for my swatch chart if you do decide that you want to swatch the pencils on my swatch chart. All right, guys, with that, they are not water resistant. They do smudge, so make sure that you blend with your Caran d'Ache blender. They do blend very nicely, both with themselves as well as with the Caran d'Ache blender. You can create a rainbow rainbow effect using the three primary colors of red, blue, and yellow. And yeah. They work very, very nicely. There is more than enough colors in the set to create a gradient as well for pretty much every color in the set. All right, guys, with that, again, the DBDSZYH pencils are the pencil of the week. I will be finishing off a page that we started on Saturday today on stream at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time using these pencils. So if you want to see them in action on coloring book paper, join me at 6:30 p.m. Until then, of course, remember to relax, color, and stay safe, everyone. And always like, comment, and subscribe. One last thing, if you are a subscriber to the channel and you're watching this and you have not already commented on the 2500 subscriber video, make sure that you go over, watch the video, and of course leave me a comment. And that's the only plug I'm going to do for that. Until next time, bye-bye for now.